Welcome gamers, welcome to Nemo's War, the second edition, which is a complete new version, I'd say. Nemo's War first edition was already a great success, but this version added a lot of new elements, improvements, new features. It's just a lot, and even if you know the first version of the game, you should go through the rules from scratch or watch this tutorial, which will lead you through the different elements of the game. So, what is this game all about? This game is based on Jules Verne's book 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, and you will be Captain Nemo in his Nautilus, in his submarine ship, and you'll be traveling all around the ocean, having adventures, fighting enemy ships, gaining notoriety. You will have to take care of yourself, your crew, your ship, the hull of your ship. You will collect treasures. You'll have your crew help you. You can upgrade your ship. There's so many stuff to do. So let's just dive into it and start with an overview over the board and its different elements. The main part of the game board is this map. This is a world map. You'll have your miniature. I'll just stand it up here. Hope you still can see it. And you can travel from ocean to ocean. There are 6 major oceans, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, the ones with the numbers, and a lot of transitional oceans in between. And you can move along those lines from ocean to ocean. Also, you have these spaces with treasure available markers. So when you're in this ocean, you might find a treasure. There's a place for uprising cubes. You can incite people on the lands. These are the brown spaces here connected to a specific ocean to revolt, and you do this by placing uprising cubes here. That's what the round brown spaces are for, and those 10 cubes. And up here you have your action track, which shows you how many actions you have in your turn. There's a lot of helpful tables and informations like here. I will go through them in detail when we're talking about these actions, but it's very helpful to have everything here. Once you read through the rulebook once or watched this tutorial, I'm sure you can play the game only by looking at those spaces. On the left side of the board, you have your draw pile. This is your story, actually. So at the start of each turn, you will draw one of these cards. It has some nice artwork, a title, quotes from the book, and there will be a lot of tests and challenges for you. And this leads you through the story, and once you played through the stack here, then you made it. So this is the time period we're playing. If we make it to the end, there are some dice, discard piles for adventure cards, depending on if you passed or failed the test, a table for some actions. Up here, these are all the cards that were not included in this deck during setup. These are additional adventures you can draw from when you're adventuring. That's the adventure deck. Up here is your notoriety track. So during the game, depending on your action, your notoriety will of course increase, adding more ships to your ship draw pool. And if your notoriety is too high on these red spaces, the game might end before you go through this pile. This is dependent on Nemo's motive. We'll talk about that a bit later. This section shows the ship resources, which is the hull. So during the game, your hull might go down. If it ever goes down to the red spot, the Nautilus is shattered and the game ends immediately. You got your crew. Same thing here. On the last spot, the crew is killed and the game ends. And you got Nemo himself, his health or his motivation. And yeah, once you reach the red spot, he's broken and the game ends. So you don't want to have that. Here you track your ship resources. On the right, there's a spot for collected treasures. So each time you draw a treasure, you place it here. You can spend treasures for certain actions and roles. This area here is for placing Nemo's motive. This is very important because dependent on his motive, the whole scoring will be different. I'll talk about that a bit later. Here you can place your sunk ships. So all ships you sunk, you place in the specific spots here. The more ships you sunk, the more points you will get in the end. These are all ship markers that will be thrown into the ship draw pile during the game, depending on the progress of the game. Up here, you can track your scores, your individual scores and the end game score with those little markers. And on the right sides, there are 4 random upgrade cards that you can buy for the Nautilus as upgrade improvements, better fighting skills, better attacking skills, a lot of stuff there. On this space, you'll place ships that you sunk but don't want to score, but instead want to salvage to get some upgrades. Let's go through some additional components. You have 6 of your crew members, most of them well known, like Professor Ironex, Ned Land, the Conceal, and then Nemo's first officer, second officer. You can sacrifice those guys for bonuses during the game, emergency events, but then you won't score the points down here. But they are there to help you. Then you have those markers placed on the board. They're called hidden ship marker. They just represent a ship there, which you don't know which kind of ship it is. Only if you fight it or if oceans get too full, you would reveal the ship. You will draw a ship from the ship draw pool. By the way, the ship draw pool is this. The bowl obviously does not come with the game. So we have a lot of starting ships here. And throughout the game, some more ships from these piles and from the notoriety track will be added here. Each time you have to place a ship, you draw it from here. Also, another bowl with tons of treasure markers. So if you go treasure hunting, if you get a treasure, you just draw it randomly out of this bowl. That's almost it. There are some additional markers that come into play through different cards and events. There are Deadly Seas markers, more than these. I think they're about, I'd say 10 or 12, which is already an expansion you can add in. And the game, of course, comes with a nice, well-written rule book. Everything's very clear here with a lot of images. This is, of course, beta, so there are some blank spaces and no cover yet. You have a little sheet for setup. Looks complicated, but once you know it, the setup is pretty quick. And you have epilogues dependent on Nemo's motive and your victory point score. You can read a little story of how your game ended. So that's all that comes with the game. Now, what is the goal of the game? What are you trying to achieve? You're trying to achieve as many victory points as possible. And there's a lot of ways to gain victory points. You can gain victory points by sinking warships, sinking non-warships, by adding adventure cards, through treasures, liberation, so placing uprising cubes, discovered science, wonders you saw during your journey. You also get points dependent on the resources, the state of Nemo, the crew, and the ship at the end of the game. How many ships you sunk in the different oceans. And there is also a lot of negative points you can get, like here, the red numbers, or when you're killed. So actually at the end of the game you score your points, and everything under 200 is a loss. Everything over 200 is starting, well, to be some kind of a win. Where is the table here? Yeah, everything lower than 200 is a failure. 200 to 224 inconsequential, and a notable successful triumphant with 275 plus. Let's go through setup. The first thing you do is you sort out your ships. There are basic ships, the white ones, they have a gray back, and the yellow ones. You take all white and yellow ones and put them in the bowl. This is your ship draw pool, okay? Put it aside, not too far away, you'll need it very often. Then you take all the other ships, like these two special black ones, the darker yellow, orange and red ones, pile them up here. They'll be added later. The blue ones go here and the green ones go here. Then you place hidden ship markers on the spaces outlined in the oceans. This is 2 in the Western Pacific, 1 in the Pacific coast, 2 in the North Atlantic. So it's just indicated by those lines here. That's the starting setup for hidden ships. You place a treasure available token on each of the major oceans, so the ones with the dice. You place your action marker at 1. You start at 1, not at 0. This is important. Take the 6 characters, place them somewhere in reach. Place those rings here to show that Nemo, the crew and the hull are all intact and healthy. Notoriety starts in this space at 0. The Nautilus is not placed yet. Also place victory point markers here to check your victory points. There are a lot of markers for each of the ways how you can score victory points. Place them all there. There are 10 uprising cubes, place them here. There are also 2 of a different color. I think they will be black and the other ones will be gray or silver. They might come in later. This is your crosshairs marker, nicely shaped. And with this one, you can show which ship you will attack and if it will be a bold attack or a stalk attack. Then here comes your first really important decision. You decide Nemo's motive. There are 4 motives: explore, science, anti-imperialism, and war. Dependent on your choice, this one will be placed here. These victory points, those 7 different options to get victory points, are scored differently. So like in war, the warships are +1 per counter, adventure cards -1, liberation is 4 per cube, science is ×3, and wonders is ×2. So if you go for war, you want to sink a lot of warships. You want to go exploring, okay, so warships are -1 each, and of course seeing wonders and science is more valuable. So these are 4 different motives for Nemo and 4 different ways you can play the game. Are you going for sinking ships? Are you going for adventuring, for searching treasures, whatever? Once you placed this, I think we'll start with explore. I think this is recommended for your first game. Set the other one aside. There's one chance, one card in the deck that will allow you to change your motive, but then it's set. And this influences your endgame scoring. Next, take the upgrade cards, and there are 4 cards with a mark here. They are marked anti-imperialism, explore, science and war, and choose the one that matches your motive. This is explore in this case. Shuffle the rest together, and you can decide to upgrade the Nautilus right from the start of the game, but you have to pay these costs in ship resources. So you have to decrease your ship resources by 3, either by spending 1, 2, 3 hull or 1 of each. However, you can decide not to, keep your resources on top and then just shuffle it back in. Let's say I'll just take it and I just exhaust 1 of each resource, and now the Nautilus is already upgraded with a hydro drive. Each time you perform a move action, you can move the Nautilus up to 2 oceans instead of 1. Shuffle the rest of the upgrade cards, deal 4 to the side here. These are the 4 available during the game. There might be some cards or some events that add some more upgrade cards, so keep them close. The last thing we need to do is to prepare our draw deck, sort out the 3 act cards, prologue, first intermission, second intermission, sort out the finale cards and the rising action, a hollow explosion, and take all the rest, shuffle them. And then there's a nice table here that shows you the setup. At first, you randomly take 1 finale card. Let's take this one. You add 1, 2, 3, 4 adventure cards to it from the main deck. Shuffle them. That's the bottom of the deck. So you know that somewhere in the last 5 cards there is the finale card. Then the Act 3, the number of cards depends on Nemo's motive. 6 cards for science, 8 for explorer, 11 for anti-imperialism, 13 for war. We had explore, so we take 8 cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We add the rising action card, the red one. Shuffle them, place them on the draw pile. Add Act 3, the second intermission, to the top of this pile. Then we have a look at the next box. It says another 8 cards for Explorer. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Shuffle them, place them on top of the stack. Add Act 2, the first intermission. Take another 6 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Shuffle them, place them on top, and then the Act 1, the prologue card, on top of the pile. That should be 31 cards. You can put aside for the moment all dice except 2 white ones. The game comes with 3 white and 2 black dice. All the cards that are not in the draw pile go to the adventure deck, add another treasure marker on top of it, and you're ready to go. Now the full turn sequence for the game is shown here. It says first event phase, reveal the top card in the draw pile, then we have a placement phase, and then there is the action phase, which can be dependent on a die roll, either a standard turn or a lull turn. Let's start our first turn by drawing our first adventure card, which will always be the prologue. I will not read this for you, this is for you to explore. And the prologue, these act cards are kind of special cards. They're just some instructions. In this case, roll a die and place the Nautilus in the ocean. Rolled, this is the Eastern Pacific, the 2, and I'll place it here. The Nautilus is never placed in one of these squares. These spaces are for enemy ships only. So I'll just place it up here. I hope you can see it, or I can also lay it down. Okay? And it shows 2 white dice, which means until the next act card is drawn, we roll 2 white dice in the placement phase. This card says continue by drawing the next card. So this is a regular card. And there are 3 different cards you can draw here. Either test card, we get to that in a second, a play card, that is just play the card and follow the instructions, then discard the card, and a keep card. Keep cards are cards you obviously keep and you can use later. They usually have a condition like when the Nautilus is in the North or South Atlantic, you may do this or that. The cards, all of them have an F for fail or a P for pass. So when there's an F, it just means put it in the fail pile. If there's a P, put it in the pass pile. All cards in the pass pile are scored at the end of the game. Cards in the fail pile are not scored. Now here comes our first test. Okay, we have jaws wide open. That's a shark attack. And we have a test 8. The number is the target number we want to roll. We want to hit this number, roll it or higher. And we can spend one of our ship resources. We cannot spend it, we kind of bet it, okay? Which means move this marker on the space between the two circles, and now I got a +3 to my die roll. There are some other modifiers, like when there are warships in the same ocean with the Nautilus, you get a -1, not per warship, just if there are warships, revealed warships of course. And also you can discard treasures. Let's say you had a treasure here, collected treasure. You can discard one treasure, so remove it from the game and add the point value of the treasure as a positive modifier to your roll. But you have to decide this before you roll. But we don't have any treasure. Okay, let's roll some dice. It's 2 dice. So we have 6 + 3, that's 9. So we passed the test. When you pass the test, you move your marker back, your resource marker. So you did not lose any crew, only if you fail the test. And then you go through the card and say, it says pass. So you can either put it in the pass pile, it says P, it will reward you 2 adventure points, or you can put it in the fail pile. This means you will not score those points, fail pile, and gain 1 Nemo. Gain 1 Nemo means increase Nemo's health by 1. Gain 1 crew would be the same for crew, hull is also the same. That's if you pass the test. Let's say we rolled a 4. 4 + 3 is 7. If this is lower than our target number of 8, we failed the test, which means that the resource we bet here is lost, so we have to move it down here. This is how your resources decrease, and in this case your crew gets weaker. And then you have the fail, which says put it in the fail pile and lose 1 Nemo in addition. That's pretty bad. This is how tests work in the game. There are variations depending on what test you do, variations in the kind of resources you can add, the kind of modifiers you get, and especially the outcome and what happens if you fail. We go through that when we go through the different actions. Also, each time you take a hit, so you lose a resource, instead of losing a resource, you can discard one of the Nautilus updates you gained. They are pretty valuable, so this should be like the last option to take. Okay, we passed the test, that's it. That's the event phase. Next there comes the placement phase. This is where we roll the 2 white dice. Remember, later on we will roll more dice. Dice will be added through act cards, and also if notoriety increases to 44, it says 1 additional black die per roll. We talk about that a bit later. So now we roll the 2 dice. It's a 4 and a 6. I go through a regular turn. A regular turn takes place if there is no double. That's not a double. We have the 4 and the 6, so we have to place new hidden ships in these two oceans, starting from the lowest going to the highest. So in ocean 4, I'll place another hidden ship, and in ocean 6, I'll place another hidden ship. So let's go through the placement phase in detail. What happens if there are all spaces occupied by hidden ships? There's a nice little table that says a hidden ship in that ocean. Or, if that's not possible, a hidden ship in an adjacent ocean. Adjacent is connected by the blue lines and also by the dotted lines. The dotted lines are only for adjacency, so I could place the hidden ship marker here or here because these are adjacent. Let's say I rolled a 5. This is our example. Now what happens if this ocean and all adjacent oceans are occupied? Well, then you have to reveal a hidden ship, either in this ocean or in one of the adjacent oceans. Let's take this ocean, I just discard the marker, draw a random ship, and place it here. The white ships are non-warships. They have a gray flip side, which are warships, but usually you place them on the white side. If you draw a warship, warships have different colored sides, which you can see here, and all backs of warships are purple. They are not used until you reach notoriety 36, which says flip warships to purple side. So if I drew a warship, I would have placed it like this. Now what if there's no hidden ship marker either in this ocean or in the adjacent ocean? You just go to the next point, number 5. The next option is flip a white non-warship token in this or an adjacent ocean to a gray warship token side. You choose one of the white ones and flip them over. Now it's a warship. Okay, what if there's no white non-warship in this ocean or the adjacent ocean? You draw another ship. It has to be a warship, so even if you draw a white one, you just flip it to the gray warship side and you place it in any empty spot on the board. If there's no empty spot, the game ends immediately. I don't say you lose it, but most probably, because this is an Imperial victory, which gives you minus 50 points. If the ship token is placed in the ocean with the Nautilus, you immediately get a free stock attack you have to perform. So that's the placement phase. Sounds a bit complicated. Actually, it's not. It's all on here. You just go through it, and once you play this, it's kind of intuitive. That's the placement phase. Then have a look at the dice and subtract the lower number from the higher number, which is in this case 6 minus 4, and this is the number of action points you get for your turn. You can never have more than 5 actions, so if you saved 1 and rolled a 6 and a 1, so that will be plus 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, the last one is lost. And you can save a maximum of 1 action for the next turn. You will see why in a minute. But you also can use them all, of course, until you go to 0. Now what happens if you roll a double? Okay, like let's say a double 6. This is a lull turn, which is the right side here. The placement of the ships is the same. In this case, 2 ships are placed in ocean 6. Let's do that. Ocean 6, sorry, 2 hidden ship markers, of course. Ocean 6 is full, but I can place it in an adjacent ocean over here. This is full. I can place it here in the transitional ocean, or this arrow leads to Western Pacific. I can also place it here. Like I place one here and the second one here. Also, if there is no treasure available marker, you place a treasure available marker here, and you place another marker on the top of this adventures deck. You also check For uprising cubes, I get to that later when we talk about uprising cubes. And now you can see that 6 minus 6 is 0, and this is exactly the number of actions you get. So you better save 1. If you're at 0, you don't have any actions. That's it, and your turn is over. There are also characters you can sacrifice to get more actions, like the Chief Engineer, which gives you 2 actions. That's the difference in the placement phase for a standard turn and a lull turn. If you roll more dice, like the maximum you can roll are 3 plus 2. So with Act 3, you're at 3 white dice and a black die, and once your notoriety reached 44, you have to roll an additional black die for the rest of the game. So if you roll more than 2 dice, you roll and then you choose 2 of the white dice. Let's say I choose the 2 and the 6. Okay? So this is not a lull turn, it's a standard turn because I didn't choose the doubles. And then placement of the ships take place. 1 ship in each of these oceans. So in the 1, 2, 3, and 2 in the 6. So a lot of ships there. And also 6 minus 2. These are the 2 I chose. That's 4 actions. So I get an additional 4 actions. If I chose the doubles, that would be a lull turn. In a lull turn, no ships are placed from the black dice. You place them on the 2, on the 6, on the 6, including the treasure token here and the treasure on the adventures pile. You get 0 actions and take a lull turn. So quick recap, event phase, draw the top card. If it's a keep card, keep it. If it's a play card, play it. If it's a card with a test value, perform the test. If I didn't mention, you do not have to exert resources. You can always roll without exerting resources. Then roll the dice dependent on where you are in the game, dependent on the act and the notoriety track. Choose 2 white dice. This determines if it's a standard or a lull turn. Do ship placement on all the dice, on the lull turn only on white dice. Get actions, and then it's your action phase. And the actions I will explain in the next video.